If the whole of English football is not in mourning, it certainly should be. I'm Simon Kerins, and at the time of recording this special feature, Bury Football Club and all who care for it, not least the Greater Manchester town itself, are still reeling from the English Football League's decision to expel the Gigg Lane club from the league. This follows years of financial mismanagement and comes at the end of a period when really the only certainty was ongoing uncertainty regarding the club's viability and its ability to restore financial order. As a result, and notwithstanding the very best efforts of fans, with a few false dawns along the way, Bury has become the first English club since Maidstone United back in 1992 to be expelled from the English Football League. Moreover, it is the first third-tier team to suffer such a fate, and also the first team to bite the dust having won an FA Cup. Just a few months ago, on the face of it, Bury was knowing happier times. Against all odds, admittedly against the backdrop of growing off-field uncertainty, the club somehow clinched promotion from League 2 to League 1. Those were happy days, sadly long gone, and it's ironic that just 2 years ago, Bury was named the happiest place to live in Greater Manchester. I'm sure that if the contest were taking place in August 2019, it would not be in contention for that title. As a result, Bury is something of an empty shell now. Gigg Lane is effectively twiddling its thumbs, waiting for the next twist in the tale. It was late last year that businessman Steve Dale paid just £1 to purchase the club. The past few months have seen ongoing dialogue with HMRC, other creditors, and of course the EFL. And Bury's perceived failure to satisfy the league that it could restore financial order has led to the decision which was made on Tuesday. Many people, particularly younger listeners to this feature, might ask, who are Bury? Who were they anyway? Let me tell you, Bury Football Club has a rich and proud history. Founded back in 1885, during which time it has continued to call Gigg Lane home, Bury played for many years in the top flight of English football. Back in 1900, they won the FA Cup, beating Southampton by 4-0 at the old Crystal Palace in London. Their scorers that day were McLucky. How ironic is that? McLucky scored twice. Wood and Plant were also on the score sheet. And just 3 years later, Bury returned to Crystal Palace and routed Derby County 6-0 in the FA Cup final of 1903. Their scorers that day were Ross, Sagar, Leeming with 2 goals, and Messrs Wood and Plant once again on the score sheet. Down the years, Bury has been synonymous with some very famous players, to name but 3: Sammy McIlroy, Dean Kiley, and former Everton goalkeeping legend Neville Southall. In terms of managers, they have had Bob Stokoe, most famous for leading Sunderland to the 1973 FA Cup, and also Stan Ternent, and managerial veteran, now at Cardiff City, Neil Warnock. Perhaps the most famous or the most impactful figure in Bury's history of all was one Harry Spencer Hamer, who oversaw their 2 FA Cup successes of 1900 and 1903. Harry Spencer Hamer headed up a 3-man committee during what was to prove to be the most successful period in Bury's history. Success and failure, 2 extremes. And anyone who put the problems to one side back in the spring and bought into Bury's promotion, took it at face value and celebrated that success, as they had every right to do, will now be shedding tears of despair rather than those of joy. It's very easy at a time like this to try and rewrite history, to point the finger internally or externally. But human nature dictates that that is precisely what will happen. People will talk about financial fair play. They will talk about retrospectively applying the fit and proper persons rule. Due diligence. They will ask what the EFL could have done differently, and whether it could and should have done more. They will also ask why a club located in the heartland of English football, the North West, with so many great established clubs in close proximity, has been left floundering. Surely, they might say, there could be some mechanism whereby those clubs, the Manchester Cities and Manchester Uniteds of this world, look after a near neighbour who has fallen on very hard times. It could even be said that given that English football, or at least the top end of it, is so awash with money, that there could be some kind of SOS pot to help out clubs in financial peril. Of course, that's not condoning fiscal mismanagement, but it is taking into account the fact that a football club means a lot to a lot of people. In many ways, it is at the centre of the town or the city in which it is located. That was certainly the case with Bury. I have visited Gigg Lane. I found it an extremely pleasant stadium in a very nice city. Hopefully, the future of Bury FC is brighter than is currently the case. There are rumours still circulating that there could be a very, very late intervention. A consortium is reportedly putting together a considerable sum of money to take over the club. But for now, the decision has been made. Bury has been expelled from the league and must wait to reapply further down the pecking order. Of course, clubs have done that in the past. Accrington Stanley and Aldershot, Newport County as well. So there is hope. But of course, things like that do take time. Some clubs can take years to work their way back up the pyramid of English football. And let us not forget that just a few weeks ago, Bury was preparing for another campaign in the third tier. Every football fan, regardless of loyalty, should join me in wishing this great club well, and also encouraging some reflection, some retrospection on the part of English football as a whole. It's a crying shame that this has happened. Of course, Bolton Wanderers have faced similar woes, but their future seems brighter. For now, we can but hope that the sun will return to shine on Gigg Lane.